There's something eerily intimate about living alone. The silence grows roots in your walls, the kind that echo every step and magnify every thought. After the breakup, I told myself solitude would be healing. But over time, solitude turned into shadows, lingering, uninvited. I'd lived in the corner unit of a quiet complex for just under a year. It was modest, sunlit in the mornings, dim by the time I returned from work. Privacy was its biggest blessing, until Elijah moved in, next door. He arrived in late autumn, dragging boxes and confidence behind him. Tall, with a deep laugh that seemed to carry through the walls, Elijah quickly became a fixture in the building. Everyone noticed him. Everyone liked him, including me. We exchanged brief nods in the hallway, occasionally shared the elevator. Nothing more. I assumed he was just another neighbor passing through life parallel to mine. That illusion changed one Tuesday evening. I remember the bath, a ritual I'd grown attached to. Hot water, dim lights, jazz humming from the speaker on the shelf. The window above the tub was cracked open to let the steam escape, framed by the fading dusk. As I leaned back, eyes closed, I felt something, an instinctual prickle at the back of my neck. I opened my eyes, glanced at the window. No face, no sound, but for the briefest second I could have sworn someone had been there, watching. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe just the wind shifting the curtain, or my tired mind playing tricks. Still, the sensation clung to me like leftover mist on the mirror, unclear but persistent. 3 days passed before I saw Elijah again. We crossed paths near the mailbox, and as we exchanged the usual nod, he smiled a little longer than usual. "You have good taste in music," he said casually, tapping his ear as if referencing something he'd overheard. I blinked. "Excuse, me?" The other night, something smooth was playing. Miles Davis, right? I nodded slowly. "Yeah, how'd you hear that?" His smile widened, unbothered. "The walls in this place are thin. Everything echoes." Maybe that was true. Or maybe he'd been outside my window that night, lingering just long enough to catch more than a melody. I didn't press him. Part of me didn't want to know. Another part, the one I tried to silence, felt a flicker of intrigue. After he walked away, I stood alone with the mail clutched in my hand, the envelope corners bending beneath my grip. There was something about Elijah's presence, unshaken, watchful, that unsettled me, not out of fear, but out of a curiosity I hadn't felt in a long time. And beneath that curiosity was something else, something slower, quieter, a pull. After that moment by the mailboxes, I became aware of Elijah in ways I hadn't before. He wasn't just the guy next door. He was a presence, constant and quietly invasive, like the bass line of a song you didn't realize had been playing, until it stopped. I started noticing things. The time he left for work, 9:15 sharp, with coffee in one hand, phone in the other. The scent of his cologne in the hallway, earthy, crisp. Even the music he played, low and rhythmic, like a conversation you weren't supposed to hear but couldn't stop listening to. One Saturday, I found him in the laundry room. He was folding shirts with the kind of precision that suggested either military training or heartbreak. I leaned against the doorframe, unsure if I should interrupt. He looked up and smiled. "Didn't expect company down here." "I didn't think anyone used this place after dark." Elijah shrugged. "Helps me think. Plus, the hum of machines, weirdly calming." We talked. About nothing at first. The weather. The landlord's obsession with repainting stairwells. Then, slowly, the walls between us began to thin. He mentioned he'd just gotten out of something serious. A 3-year relationship that ended without a bang. Just a slow, aching drift. I told him about my own breakup. He asked why it ended. I hesitated, then said, "Too much silence. Not enough truth." He nodded, as if he understood that language. That night became a ritual, not planned but organic. We ran into each other more often, hallway banter turning into 15-minute conversations. Eventually, I invited him over for a movie. Nothing heavy, just comfort viewing. He came, brought snacks, sat close, close enough that our shoulders almost brushed, but didn't. The bath incident, still unspoken between us, felt like a quiet echo in the room. I kept wondering if he remembered it, if it meant anything to him, or if I'd just imagined it all. But every glance, every pause, between his words, whispered something unspoken. Something real. One night, during a storm-induced blackout, we sat on my living room floor, lit by the soft flicker of candles. The air felt thicker than usual. Elijah leaned back against the couch, watching the flame dance. "I never thought I'd like it here," he said quietly, "but it's not so bad now." I met his gaze. There was something in his eyes, something open, maybe even vulnerable. I felt it then, a pulse between us. And almost. But the moment passed. No words, no touch. Only a silence that spoke louder than anything we'd said. When he left, I sat alone in the dim room, the flame now a dying wick. Whatever we were dancing around, it was getting harder to ignore. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't want to. Sunday mornings were my sanctuary, slow, quiet, sacred. I'd brew coffee, open the windows, and let the stillness settle. But that morning shattered the rhythm. I was halfway through folding my blanket when I heard laughter, low and familiar, from Elijah's apartment. I paused, ears alert. Another voice followed. Male, confident, laughing easily like he belonged there. Curiosity tugged at me. I walked toward my window just in time to see a man step out of Elijah's door. He was tall, well-dressed, carrying a gym bag and smiling like he'd spent the night. Elijah followed, barefoot, shirtless, standing in the doorway. They exchanged a brief hug. No awkwardness, no hesitation. I stood frozen, a dull pressure pulsed behind my ribs. The man left. Elijah lingered for a moment, then turned and caught sight of me through the blinds. Our eyes locked, just long enough for something unspoken to pass between us. Then he disappeared inside. For hours, I sat with that image lodged in my mind. I wasn't owed an explanation. We weren't anything. No title, no promises. Still, I felt betrayed. Like a dream I hadn't even finished dreaming had been stolen from me. That evening, I opened my door to take out the trash and found Elijah standing there. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were gentle. "Hey," he said, voice quieter than usual. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside. He walked in unsure, his usual confidence dimmed. He didn't sit. He stood in the middle of the room, fingers flexing like he was rehearsing what to say. "I need to tell you something," he began. "That night, the one with the music, I was outside your window." I didn't move. "I didn't mean to be," he continued. "I was passing by and something about the moment just held me there. I wasn't proud of it. I should have left, but I didn't." He looked at me, waiting for anger or disgust. I gave him neither. "I figured," I said. Silence settled again. "And the guy today?" I asked, unable to stop myself. Elijah hesitated. "My ex, he came by to talk, that's all." I wanted to believe him, needed to, but the hurt had already taken root. "I don't know what this is," I admitted, or what it was supposed to be, but it felt real to me. "It was real," Elijah said, "but I was scared to let it be more." He stepped closer, but I didn't meet him halfway. I couldn't. Not yet. The days after that conversation moved like molasses. Slow, silent, and heavy, with everything left unsaid. I didn't block Elijah. I didn't confront him again. I simply faded. Stopped replying to messages. Stopped lingering by the hallway. When we crossed paths, I offered a polite nod and kept walking. It wasn't anger, not really. It was self-preservation, the quiet kind. And yet he didn't vanish, not completely. One evening I found an envelope slipped beneath my door. No name, no address, just a single fold and his handwriting on the front. "For when you're ready." Inside was a letter, honest, raw. He wrote about that night by the window, about how it wasn't lust that froze him in place, but something more confusing, longing, curiosity, maybe even hope. He admitted he'd been watching me long before that night, not through glass, but in those small daily moments. passing each other in the hallway, overhearing laughter through the wall, noticing how I always double-locked my door like I was afraid of the world. He said he didn't act because he was used to things falling apart, because people never stayed. Because sometimes it's easier to keep feelings at arm's length than risk having them shattered. I didn't mean to hurt you, he wrote, but I think you saw a version of me I haven't learned how to be yet. I read the letter twice, then again, and again, but I didn't respond. Instead, I folded it carefully and tucked it in the drawer beside my bed, next to the spare keys, an old photo, and other things I couldn't quite let go of. Weeks passed. I got better at breathing, through the quiet. I remembered how to enjoy my own company again. But the nights still carried his scent in the hallways, and sometimes I caught myself reaching for my phone, only to stop halfway. One rainy afternoon, I opened my door and nearly walked into him. He looked surprised, tired, maybe hopeful. "Hey," he said softly. I nodded. "Hey." That was it. No conversation, no confession, just a shared breath in the doorway. As he stepped aside to let me pass, our shoulders brushed, barely, but enough to stir something that hadn't fully died. I didn't turn back, neither did he. Some stories don't end in declarations or dramatic kisses. Some are quiet lessons, gently folded into the memory of who we used to be. And though nothing more came of it, I still think about him sometimes. About the night I felt seen, not for my body, but for the silence I carried. The silence he somehow understood. We weren't lovers. We weren't strangers. We were something in between. And maybe that was enough.